Well. Welcome back to Krown's Good Okay. It's a nice little Sunday morning over here in Chicago, Illinois. Very nice and relaxed tone because Bitcoin, hasn't really done all that much since we last spoke. But there are a few ideas to discuss as this new week opens up and kind of where all the higher time frames going to be closing tonight, which is going to really set the tone for this next couple of weeks of price action, I'd imagine. So with that said, as always, want to be wish you well, want to be wish you the best, the happiest of the happiest as well. As we fly through Chicago, holy shit, man. Look at that. Look at the background. Just beautiful, man. Absolutely fucking beautiful. My favorite American city, and it looks like Batman land. Jesus Christ, it is majestic. Hold my hand as we fly through this concrete jungle, this concrete metropolis, and you know what? I'll see you in the live scene. And there it is. Has been initiated, and holy fucking moly, there she is. Beautiful Bitcoin in all of her glory on the daily right here. Daily close yesterday, pretty bad. pretty nasty rejection we had. Yeah, I do interpret this as a rejection of not just the red 10 symbol, but also the yellow 21. I mean, you could even say the green 50 along the way as well. And Bitcoin kind of putting into consolidation on its lows, which typically is not the best signal. But does that mean that we're just going to bust through the support floor right here, right now on this exact tick? Probably not. No, I think that Bitcoin does a little bit more sideways within this region. But while we are here on the daily, let's actually discuss this just a little bit further. We do still see daily Stochs getting really down here, but there is something to be aware of. We do see a nice. I guess I already have it in there. We do see a nice trend line forming, which has been kind of governing our highs within this corrective move to the downside, which I do identify as corrective. This does look corrective to me. It does not look like impulsive, if you want to use some Wyckoff terms, which would imply overall longer term good things, of course. But at the same time, gotta call a spade right now. And when we look at our momentum oscillators, while these start to get down and dirty, while we kind of approach major supports, which I would identify pretty much as our Cyan 89 exponential moving average, that actually does suggest that we probably do play out a little bit more of a bounce region from this from this current territory. Bringing up the daily RSI, do we have anything to be aware of here? We do have we are getting a little bit comfortable within the bearish control zone. Are we working on any sort of divergences, though, is the real question. And I would say it is, as of right now, unconfirmed, because we don't really have any sort of local lows to really be comparing anything with. So really, to get anything out of this chart, we need to go down to the lower time frames right now to kind of judge what's most likely to happen here. And of course, the blue box territory saving us once again. We actually did hit our first target, or at least I would consider our first target to the upside hit at 9,600. We got up to about 95.80ish, 95.70 on some exchanges. So close enough is close enough. But actually, I do think that Bitcoin does rally off and actually does do another bounce attempt off this blue box territory right here. But overall, the price action is weak. This is a pretty lackluster response by bulls. And while I said it, and while I do say that this is corrective in nature, that does imply that we actually do have some more downside to go. Anyways, with regards to this right here, all lower time frames are starting to line up once again. If you remember the last time that they lined up, it was actually right around here, and kind of a similar posturing, actually, basically rallying off that blue 377 exponential moving average on the 4 hour, and just kind of getting all these like higher level wicks right here. And you're seeing the same sort of signature right here. Momentum oscillators are essentially operating the same right now. We see 4 hour Stochs wanting to cross the upside, and we're going to see this actually mirrored in all of the time frames below this, 1 through 4. So here's your 3 hour, which has been getting things extremely well actually recently. 2 hour also up as well, and all coming from the same sort of origin, and then hourly actually down. But the second the hourly actually cross the upside, if we still see the same signature on all of the 2, 3, and 4 hour time frames, I would be looking for this to carry onwards and upwards actually. Similar to what we saw before. This last signature right here gave us about a $400 rally. We went from 98 to 10.3. Yeah, so sorry, about a $500 rally. So not bad. And I think all of the crosses that we saw on the 4 hour Stochs with my setting have been similar in nature. The last time that we saw was actually crossing up right here. So it wasn't even out of like a good posturing. But got that last little $500 move. The time before that was out of this base right here, moving from 96 to 10.2, so about $800 move right there, or sorry, $600 move right there, pretty damn good. Time before that was this consolidation right here, leading us out of this 9,500 base all the way to, you could basically say 11,100. So $1,000 plus move. Just wanted to show that. But overall, when we see all of those time frame Stochs kind of align with each other, that is where I do like to see these bounces. And when we do approach a major support trend line like this, just the same area that we had in since yesterday, I'm essentially looking for the same thing to happen, but ultimately this is starting to look a little bit more and more nasty. If we go to a fresh chart here, we do see that we're actually kind of forming we're not actually kind of, but we are very much forming a descending triangle, which if you remember during 2018, that's pretty much all we did. I mean, we could kind of chart it like this. I really dislike diagonals, but I suppose the better and more accurate way of charting it would be something like this. And this actually can imply a downwards target if we do trade outside, not just trade outside, but close outside this bottom support at about 9350 to 9400, kind of a buffer zone right there. And it would imply move down to the 8400-ish region, down around here, which everyone's going to be fucking having their eyes on, because you got the you still got all the gap boys from CMEs coming in and talking about it over here. But CMEs actually look a lot more orderly to me while we are here. And while yes, the gap from 14th of June is still very much present, and at some point in time, I do believe it does get filled. However, the timing of that still very highly variable, as all of the people who have been, calling for gap boys, gap boy time. Let's fucking run it down right here. Nope. Then reverse it back up, and then same thing running over here, right? So it's gonna take its time, frustrating everyone. Bulls and bears both in fucking disbelief, really, because they want, both sides, the moon boys and the doom boys want, price action to go to 16,000 and fucking 3,000 respectively. Realistically, we're just in a range, man, and this is why I love options. This is the best time to play options. I've been playing them for the last, I've been playing them the whole time, but more intently on the last few weeks. You guys been watching these positions just go up and onward. So once again, it's only a couple days into this next expiry, or holding these positions right here, but almost printing a 1 Bitcoin P&L already. So I'm quite happy about that. Basically just shorting a shit ton of out of the money premium and working on constructing a strangle based off of this range right here. So just kind of trying to capture this, and whichever side loses, I'm happy to cover that side with spot, which is my preferred way of trading. Obviously, I would like it if it breaks the upside. It'd just be a lot easier to cover. I'd much rather do a covered call in a general upwards market, which we are in a general upwards market, than a covered put in a general upwards market. I mean, it's just asking for problems. I feel like I want to be long the spot underlying realistically. Anyways, we do see that CMEs are a lot more orderly within this region, and they actually had a decent close on Friday. It wasn't terrible. And the big thing here is that first and foremost, we actually don't see the same nastiness on CMEs right now. We see the 4-hour dildo death cross has not officially happened on CMEs. It's getting damn close, but they're going to open up later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now, if we do open up kind of where we are right now, below 9,500, then we very likely do get this death cross in the 4-hour, and that's going to likely be the impetus for sending us back down below 9,000 if that does happen. But it's still a long day between now and when CMEs open at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if Bitcoin can actually piece together a rally, which I think it probably does on the lower time frames, and salvage this a little bit, then perhaps we could actually avoid this. So keep your eyes on that coming into the daily open for CMEs, and also weekly and daily close for Bitcoin himself. But while we are here, this is a very obviously well-defined pattern that we got going on. An isosymmetrical triangle, technically equally likely to break out to the upside as a downside, but coming after a little bit of a downtrend action right here and being in an overall corrective phase, it kind of does actually have a little bit more percentage chance to break out to the downside. Measure move on this actually would point exactly to, sorry, not exactly to, but around the 8,500-ish area that everyone's got their eyes on. This one a little bit higher, actually, about 8,900. So that would really line up well for a front run scenario. And because everyone and their mother's looking at 8,500 as a potential target to accumulate, and it's just like Bitcoin's just going to come down there and let you all get in, no problems, no questions asked. One of two things typically happens. We either get front round, meaning we probably do something like this where we come down to about 8,900, maybe 8,800, and then reverse from there, frustrating all the people who had their buy orders just a few $100s lower, just saying, I'll wait just a little bit more, and then then they have to buy back a little bit later after price action gets going, or we overshoot it and we get some sort of a move like super nasty and deep down into this region right here. Probably somewhere between about 7,200 and 7,500 is where I'd be looking towards. I don't really have a strong opinion on which one happens. I don't even have a strong opinion on if it happens at all, because this formation right here on CMEs looks actually okay. I don't have a huge issue with this. This is actually fine. In fact, I'd say that this looks like it. We're kind of creating some higher lows here, and it looks like reaccumulation is what it looks like to me, getting ready for a move actually back up into this region, which would align with our with our measure move to the upside. which again, I should actually define these areas. If we actually do close a 4-hour dildo below about 98.50 on CMEs, then yes, I would be looking for that downside measurement to get hit. By the way, keep in mind that there is about a $200 premium on CMEs right now, so 88 to 8900's target right here would align with about 87 to 88, or sorry, 87 to 8600 target. By the same token, if we do break out to the upside, which will essentially be had if we can either take out this horizontal right here, which is about 10.3, or even just close a 4-hour dildo back above the 200 exponential moving average, this purple moving average right here, or the 50 exponential, which would obviously avert the death cross, especially for now, then I'd be looking at a measure move towards this next sort of liquid zone right here at about 11,150. Let's actually put a blue box in there, as I do think that this area is quite important. It would also kind of fill the gap to the upside as well, and frustrate a lot of the bears wanting this thing to fall down from here, right here, right now, which it does look weak. But that's also the best time in ripe for some fuckery. So I would say, and I do hold myself to this. I actually do think that we get another bounce off this region. Yes, we did hit the target from yesterday, the shorter term target about 96, but I do think it has enough juice here to kind of try once again. And what I'd be looking for is I'd be looking for these hourly stokes to just switch back around. So whenever that happens, if we still see the same sort of signature on the 2, 3, and 4, which are all coming up from the critical zone to the downside, then yes, I do think that we get another test back up, probably around the same region, 9,600 to 9,700, give or take a few bucks, and then we'll go from there. And then probably put major priority on CMEs going forwards, because that chart is just significantly easier to read right now. But let's go back to CMEs for a second, because CMEs did already close the weekly, right? And we haven't closed the weekly on spot just yet, but we did close the weekly on CMEs. And if you look at this right here, it actually did hold up above the red 10 simple moving average. So could we expect that Bitcoin does get back above the red 10 simple on the weekly for spot to kind of give that same sort of symmetrical view? It would be very lovely if it did. And that would, in the same red 10 simple on spot, would be putting us right around 97.50. The reason why this is important is because I would have actually loved for the weekly to have closed below the red 10 simple, because it would have given us closure on this formation right here, and would have really opened up the door for a test down to the 21 or the gap, or the gap fill in the below 9,000 essentially. So it would offer up some clarity on the situation. But for now, we actually closed above it and still defending it. So it's difficult for me to really be looking for that next leg down, even though I think that there's plenty of things suggesting that we actually do go down there over time. But for now, over time being that critical key component, because lower time frames to me look like they probably want to rally off this area and frustrate people a little bit more. So again, probably a lot of people are going to end up being right, but did they time it right, or did they get the actual like P&L right? Maybe not. So yeah. Anyways, looking at this right here, we still do see a lot of issues with price action on CMEs. However, we see a couple things that are, well, first and foremost, very interesting to me. We have a nice head and shoulders on weekly RSI right here. It's not perfect, but it does work, and I actually trust patterns on RSI a lot more than I do on actual price action, especially with cryptocurrencies. And this would suggest that we actually do go a little bit lower. But well, it depends how you kind of chart this. Do you do your neckline like this? If so, then we pretty much already got there. It's a little bit more of a difficult look, and more importantly, I do think that we actually get a little bit of a pick me up in this region, just to pop back up and test around the exponential. Usually these things don't go in a straight line. I mean, we went into a straight line on the way up, to be fair, but because this is a more corrective move to the downside, I would say that this is likely actually to take its time to the downside. Anyways, let's see, what else did I want to talk about here? I think that's pretty much it as far as CMEs go. I think it's I think their charts are quite interesting right now, and potentially offering up a play, but of course they don't open up until later tonight, so the next best thing to look at is spot prices. And we do actually have some issue. We do have some divergences here on spot from CMEs. In fact, when you look at the weekly RSI, we actually have bearish divergence here, which was not present on CMEs. And also on top of that, we obviously don't have the head and shoulders, but it would actually imply that both are kind of one and the same. You can kind of substitute one for the other. And this one actually looks a lot more nastier, but same sort of signature. I actually do think that we get a small reprieve here, and ultimately probably do come back down a little bit more to the neutral zone. But that again can take some time. We're looking at a weekly right now, so it is also worth mentioning. Remember that if CMEs closed their weekly above the red 10 simple, I really want to see spot do it as well, and that's going to close later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we have a lot of time until that. We have about about 10 hours or so. Yeah, about 10 hours it looks like, looking at my phone right now. So keep your eyes on that as I make sure that I'm recording and my mic is working. Good, great, God damn it, fucking hell, man. You have no idea how many videos I've been talking to myself for ages, and then it's like, oh, sound's not on. maybe turn that on when you're gonna make a video. Maybe do that. Anyways, besides lamenting my own failures, let's go back into it. And of course, I think it goes without saying, the weekly, as well, showing that there are significant things actually pointing further south. But again, I want to make this very, very clear. I'm not bearish. Bearish is the wrong word to use. I could see downside all the way to the weekly 21 exponential moving average, and that's completely fine. It's in fact quite a healthy retracement area for traditional markets to kind of come down to on your weekly as support, during your strong trending move. So for Bitcoin, we actually have a good insight to its historical ways on how it plays off of it. For pretty much the history of Bitcoin, it likes to rally off the yellow 21, not so much the red 10 symbol, but definitely the yellow 21 gathering these lows, and then also to the downside gathers to tops as well, and then we switched around right on over here and pretty much actually perfectly do it to the upside, and same thing to the downside. You'll notice in 2019 we've actually not even tested it. We've not even really come close this whole run, so this whole last 6 months of straight up price action. So to me, to actually come back down and test a 21 on the weekly is quite healthy and would be quite normal, and really wouldn't offer up a massive cause for panic or anything like that. It'd actually be I'd say that this would be my traditional way of getting a more long-term long. But Bitcoin's, really taking its time. However, that, the thing is that with each and every passing week, and this will happen tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to actually rise up this yellow 21, about 100 or about 150 to 200 bucks each and every passing week. So it's going to rise up to about 8,500. Now, the thing is with this is that we have been holding the red 10 symbol the whole way up, which is okay. It's very, 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 very strong. Markets will just rally off their red 10 symbol. A little bit, certainly a lot more rare, but it does happen. But historically speaking, for Bitcoin, we certainly do not see it happening as much. It will kind of consult with the red 10 symbol on a few of these runs and kind of rally off of it. But really, the big dumps, the ones that you really want to, sorry, not that you really want to get in, but perhaps I'd be interested in getting in, and maybe maybe find that useful or not, would be off the yellow 21, and that has been my experience in traditional markets. Anyways, with regards to this, we do have something to be aware of here with the weekly jewel. The weekly jewel has a very specific signature that it's actually firing off right now, where we get the light blue oscillator into this more critical zone above the 80 marker, flash red in the background, then get a negative slope on that light blue oscillator, and then actually in some cases cross the pink, which produces some pretty nasty moves. And all four of those things, three of them certainly need to, but the fourth one, kind of the icing on the cake, produces, well, at the very least, test down on the weekly to the yellow 21 exponential moving average. So you see this first example right here comes all the way down pretty much instantaneously. This next one right in over here, same sort of reaction. This next one right in over here, a lot more nasty actually. It takes about a month though. But same sort of signature. What else do we have? We have this guy right on over here. This one takes about 2 months to get down to the 21, but it certainly does get there and never breaks it actually. This one right here, instantaneous. This one right here, about a month and a half, 2 months. This one right here, almost instantaneous, about a couple weeks. This one right here, about a couple months actually again, but it certainly does get there. And what are we doing right now in the current trajectory of Bitcoin? We have the exact same signature. We have the light blue in the critical zone. It's got a negative slope, red flash in the background, and we're actually, about one closure away from breaking this guy right now. Granted, we don't have some sort of heroic save attempt by the bulls by the ending bell, but for right now, it certainly is on my mind's eye that we're kind of running out of time here, because we put in the high about four or 5 weeks ago, and historically speaking, after we get this signal, it's only ever taken about at most 2 to maybe 2.5 months to actually come down. So we've been doing this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe another 3-4 weeks at most. But I would be, I really would be keeping my eyes on this region right here. Again, doesn't mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow. I still think it could take, a few weeks to happen. But ultimately, that would be the area that I'm really looking towards. We should also talk about the monthly, which is going to be closing in the next few days, as it is the 28th of July right now. And the monthly is looking interesting to me here, because momentum oscillators are actually good overall on the whole. We see monthly Stokes still very much to the upside, extremely painfully erect, getting out of the bearish control zone here. They will get out of the bearish control zone on the next tick for the first time in well over a year actually, and that actually did accurately call the bullish momentum being gained in the past prior bear market cycle, switching into the bullish market cycle basically around the turn of 2015 to 2016. If I zoom it out right here, this was basically this area right here, getting all of that momentum for the next few years. So I really, really like that signature. The counterpoint to that is that while the monthly RSI is overall good and is overall constructive, we are seeing a very similar signature, and something that commonly happens where after you've been living a long time away from the bullish control zone, you get rejected rejected from it. And typically, I want to see a test back down to the exponential, similar to what we saw right on over here during 2016. This first test into this region gets quickly kicked back, which produces this rejection right here, which was actually a pretty nasty rejection, to be fair, about 35% down from that high. But the overall market has still switched around. But again, that's still 35% down is fucking massive. If we shave 35% off this current price, where would that put us in around 8,700? So we have plenty of things suggesting 85, give or take a few bucks, is kind of likely. Over time, if I can bring up my oscillators once again, that would be great. We also see monthly Joule firing off a not a strong buy signal, but an okay buy signal, it's an okay one. Anyways, my point is that longer term, I'm still very much bullish. I still think that the longer term trajectory is still very much to the upside, but long term, of course, means long term. So to really kind of dial it down, I think lower time frames most likely bounce off this area. Maybe the same target is kind of what we had last night. I think we probably give another try to that region, maybe even a little bit higher towards 97. So anywhere between 96 and 97 is where I'd be looking for. And then medium term, I don't have a strong opinion on it. I just, the current price action is very much corrective, and would suggest that we probably do go a little bit lower over time, maybe over the next couple weeks or 2-3 weeks, whatever it ends up being. So I really want to make sure that that is clear, because all these different things, and of course the macro timeframes I'm massively bullish on, but all these things, really need to be taken into consideration, depending upon different, your different perspectives on this market. So I can just share my perspectives, and you can take whatever you want from that. Also, I wanted to say massive appreciation for all of the feedback on the psychology series. My God, man, I really didn't understand that that many people were interested in it. I was just doing it because, it's something that I feel like I'm like autistic in some way, because I just love to talk about it, man. I feel like I've had to learn a lot about my own psychology, reading all these books, to kind of go through my own trading journey, and so sharing that is kind of one of the things that I'm actually quite passionate about. But to see people actually were interested in it was pretty fucking cool, man. So I'll start recording some more videos once again, and maybe I want to do something more cool with it as well, though, like something more in depth, because I feel like if I really can sit down and maybe over the course of like half a year or something like that, just get all my thoughts out, I feel like I could do something that I'd be quite proud of. Anyways, while we are here on the monthly, let's put on the Trollinger Bands. Yeah, we do see that as of the current moment in time, this would be considered a rejection of the top Trollinger Band. Now, I do ultimately longer term see this as a more positive thing. We're still above the median band right here, or the median moving average, right around 7,400, which will be rising up as well in the next tick. Probably about a few $100, I'd imagine. But more importantly, I just see a nice consolidation range between this area as a base and then this area as a resistance. Of course, it's a lot more bigger. It's a lot more bigger. Great English Krown. My God, you fucking moron. You sound like an idiot. That's how I talk to myself too. Low self-esteem. Jesus Christ, man, it's awful. But yeah, my point is that I'm generally from the higher time frames bullish as long as we're above that. I'm generally bullish as long as we're above the weekly 21 for the most part. That's all the way at like 8,200, 8,300, something like that. But from the macro time frame perspective, I'm bullish as long as we're above both the 20 simple or the 21 exponential moving average, which we're above both right here, right now. Let's actually bring on something else, and because this is a Sunday and we should be talking about longer term price action, let's bring up the accumulation distribution indicator, the net delta indicator, which we do still have a positive slope, and this indicator has been damn good on the monthly in getting the overall feelings of the market. When the slope turns negative, there's your highs being put in. This was the last time right in over here, June 2014, boom, down for the next year. Then we got a positive slope right here on this dildo on August 2015, and straight up for the next 3 years right in over here. Then we get a negative slope right here in February, March of 2018. Doesn't catch the ultimate high, but good enough is good enough, my friends, and down for the next year or so. And right now we do have a positive slope, so I want to see this. I want to see this keep up this nice positive slope. It looks good to me. But for right now, just want to monitor it going forwards. Of course, the weekly also useful, and the weekly is coming down. So, the weekly look more consolidationary, more corrective. The longer term look still very much fine. And that's kind of what I want to show here. But let's get this guy off and go back down. Let's go back down to lower time frames on Bitcoin. We could do. I suppose I'll do this out as well. Why not? Because it is a Sunday, and there's not really too much else for me to be doing, especially because there has been all that much price action from yesterday. So most of what we spoke about yesterday is still very much applicable. But looking at the 4 hour right here, we do have the death cross ever so present. Of course, this is the 4 hour green 50 exponential and purple 200 exponential moving average right here. This same signature, as we spoke about before, is not reflected on CMEs. So this next open for CMEs is incredibly important. For CMEs, this actually looks like it wants to be reaccumulated and try again to the upside. Is what it looks like to me. But if we open today, again, when CMEs open later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, if they open anywhere, really anywhere below this region right here, especially below like 9,800, which I would imagine is probably with spot below about 95, if I had to guess, if I had to pester a gander, whatever the fuck that saying is, then yes, I would be looking for these to actually officially and formally death cross. This is going to look like a descending triangle, and we probably do initiate that move into the 8,000s. But for right now, this doesn't look like it wants to set up like that actually. I'd only take that stance if we open up there later tonight, or if basically CMEs come down there at any point this week. I mean, that'll just break this consolidation range, right? Nothing too crazy there. Anyways, my point is that we don't have that same cross there, and a lot of the time, as a cross is about to happen, you want to see a last-ditch attempt by the opposing side to kind of avert that, and I believe that's what we're going to see here. Anyways, if we go back down to spot and go on over here, we can kind of just get a gauge of these death crosses to begin with, and kind of how they operate in the past. You do see that this one's been available since the 22nd of July, but let's go back in time to the past prior upwards mark, which this one is, as you can see right here, very much up over the long term, even though right now in the lower time frame is very much down. If we go back to the past general upwards market and kind of judge the last few death crosses, we can get an idea of how long and how deep they long and deep, baby. That's gonna be the title of this video. Got it right there. Long and deep. We do see we see some long and deep action going on right here. We see some 15% action deep down, and then the longitudinal area of this taking about going on from 31st of July to the golden cross right over here of 6th of September. So about a month and a half. Sorry, about a month, about a month and a week. My point is that I'm really just waiting for this next golden cross in the 4 hour to kind of do a medium or long-term long. As you can see right here, you're not going to get the ultimate low with this sort of trading strategy, but do you care about getting the ultimate low if this is your, you're looking at the next basically half year just straight up? I think that's okay with me. This next one right on over here, what was it? Long and deep. We got some long action. We got some deep shot. The deep action on this one, not too bad actually. In fact, the low is put in before the cross itself, and the cross itself goes from 12th of January to 20th of January, so literally about just a week. Certainly on the not so long side, not so deep side either. This one right on over here, starting on the 18th of March, ending on the 4th of April, so about 2 weeks. And this one goes down. This one has some deep action, actually about 18.5%, so certainly on the higher side. This next one right on over here, not so actually quite deep, but not so long. We do see about 23.25% to the downside. And it takes from the 10th of July to the 21st of July, so about a week and a half. This next one right on over here, pretty deep, but does look like it actually gets a low actually right after the cross, so 10% down. And from cross to golden cross was 14th of Sept to 28th of September, so 2 weeks. Then we actually put in the high at 20,000 after that, so the rest kind of not really applicable. Anyways, so we can kind of come up with an average, right? So on the shorter end, we say it takes about a week. On the longer end, maybe about I think the longest one was maybe like 3 weeks, maybe a month. Yeah, I think it was a month actually. And the deepest that we saw, the long and deep, the deep part, about 20% to the downside. Which if we measure from cross to the downside here, 20%, where would that put us at? 8,400. Just another thing kind of pointing us right around there. Remember, it takes usually on average about 2 weeks for it to go from death cross to golden cross. That actually does imply that the bottom gets put in before that, though. Of course, this strategy isn't to get you the fucking ultimate low. It's not that sexy, but it does get you the momentum, which is more important as a trader, in my opinion, especially thinking of opportunity cost. So with regards to that, we still do see these two moving averages diverging away from each other, which tells us that trend is still strengthening to the downside. So Bitcoin really actually does need to bounce back above here, and really it's not going to change anything even on the lower time frames as long as it's below about 9,700. So if we do want to chart out the lower time frames, the way that I would do it right here is the blue box to the downside, getting our lows still very much right around 9350 to 9400. Any sort of a closure below there, and we got some problems. In fact, we could even collapse this down a little bit further. We could say on an hourly closing basis, yeah, 9400 to 9350. Anything anything below there, and we got some problems, and probably gonna initiate some heftier downside. Short-term targets would probably be about 9,000 even, then maybe 8,800, then maybe 85. But as we're kind of within this region right here, kind of BART territory is what it looks like to me. And holy fucking moly, what's up, Nabil? Good to meet you, man. Welcome to the K, brother. By the same token, to the upside, while I do think that Bitcoin has a little bit of space here to rally, to the upside, areas of interest are going to be on the extremely short time frames, about 96. It's not a strong resistance, but obviously one thing before the next. And even if Bitcoin gets above 9,600, it doesn't change anything, so to speak. But that will be a resistance on the way up. The area where the shorter term time frames start to change around is this area right here at 97. So if Bitcoin could BART back up, get back above 9,700, and start closing some hourlies above 9,700, I think that would look that would really start to align with this overall hooking back up and perhaps retesting around 10,000, 9,900 to 10,000 region. Drawing this area out even more, and that would really open up the discussion of, okay, do we want to pop back up into this range over here and just fill out this as some sort of a consolidation on the lows, which would still be overall bad, likely imply some lower price action over time, but for the time being, we'd probably spend some time, if I'm not getting fucking redundant enough, Jesus Christ, Krown, get your vocabularies out and flying around. But basically, just it implies some more sideways action going on right here, which would be great for frustrating all of the all of the cheerleaders on both sides. Anyways, putting back on all these major moving averages right here, I always like to reference this just because it's not to sound arrogant or anything like this. Just I think it's quite appropriate. One of my big rules is that I don't play anything medium or long-term long as long as we are below the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the daily, and vice versa for a bear market, essentially, on the overall side of the same trend. And when we look at this right here, we lost it, about 13th or 14th of July. While I have had some spurts of bullishness between there, this rule has kept me out of a lot of trouble. And you can see that the 21 just governing all of our highs going through here. So again, that is just a damn good way of kind of judging strength of trend with that time frame's perspective. Giving you a general insight of what the bots and algos are doing and kind of where they want to stuff price action down in this case. So keep your eyes on that area, and then obviously the support trend line right here, kind of aligning with the cyan 89 exponential moving average to the downside. So that's essentially our range right now. In fact, if we took everything off except those two, that would be quite appropriate. Getting off this guy right there and get that guy right there. See that these two moving averages are going to kind of squeeze price action into this into this area. So the range from the medium time frame perspective, nothing changes on the medium time frame perspective as long as we are above the cyan 89 or below the yellow 21 exponential moving average. Both converge on each other quite rapidly. The yellow 21 coming in about 10,250, the cyan 89 coming in back around our current low of about 9150ish region, a little bit higher than there. But my point is that nothing really changed from the medium time frame perspective. It also would imply that if we can break one of these guys, whichever one does break, that's gonna really lead up for the next probably month or two of price action. If we break this guy to the upside, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to return back to, probably around 12,000 actually over time. If we break this guy to the downside, we've already spoken about most of those targets. I think the most obvious ones are like the medium to low 8,000s. Everyone's got their eyes on there. So like I said, either front run or shoot down maybe until like 7,500, give or take a few bucks. I don't really see too many people talking about 7,500. So that is a little bit compelling. There certainly are a few people out there. I mean, it's most people are on the same page right now, really. If you're in this market, you probably have a lot more in common with everyone else than not. So it does make things a little bit more difficult. There's no like real counter crowd trade. I think that whole thing is just like a romantic idea by people who want to be. I want to be different. I'm going to be different by doing different things than everyone else. Like, all right, well, good luck with that, because it depends which echo chamber you're kind of stuck in, right? And Bitcoin cryptocurrency land has plenty of echo chambers, of which we're probably in our own just by being in this community. So do you want to point that out? But it's good to have perspective on that. Anyways, putting these babies back on, and let's go over and check out something new actually. So I want to show this. This is CoinMarketCap top 200 coins. Charted on NASDAQ, actually. This was brought up to me by someone in the program, which is incredibly valuable, and massive thank you for bringing this up because it's quite helpful. Anyways, what the fuck is going on? Anyways, looking at this right here, there are a few things to be aware of here, actually. First and foremost, do I put that much weight on the coin market cap, like top 200 shit coins, essentially? No, not really. But but I do think it's interesting nonetheless, because this is still providing us higher lows. Now remember, this is only going to trade with traditional markets, so it's only open during traditional market hours. It's not going to be open during the weekend, so it's not getting all the bullshit weekend action. But without all the bullshit weekend action, we've actually already kind of come back down, filled that gap to the downside, and to me, this looks like reaccumulation right here, creating some higher lows, getting ready for a move back up above this pivot at 223, likely back up to 239, and hit this target right here is what I'd be looking towards. Of course, you do have a gap to the downside right around 150, but I would say that on spot that's already been filled. Depends. Which one do you really go with? Hard question to answer. I don't really know, and I'd say that I'm less inclined to believe this chart, because it is, it's literally just mopping up all the shit coins, man. I mean, the thing is that with CoinMarketCap, when you even go out, even in the top 10, there's still maybe less than altruistic coins, but you venture outside the top 10, and holy shit, man, it is like a swamp of shit. And it's not good. So I'd say I'd put less weight on this, but it is interesting nonetheless to me. What I want to talk about a little bit more right now is actually the Bitcoin network momentum. This is the last fundamental indicator that I'm really have my eyes on. So shout out to Willy Woo for this. This is amazing. And we're seeing a major thing happening right now. This is fucking massive and really going to drive the next phase of Bitcoin, I'd imagine. But basically what we're looking at is a yellow line chart of price on Bitcoin, and then it's correlated with the brown oscillator, which is essentially the network momentum. So in the past, we see a very specific signature where the brown oscillator essentially starts gaining momentum, making higher lows and then higher highs, put into an uptrend. That dictates this whole rally right here. Once we put in our first lower high and then lower low, we actually put in the top and go into a little bit of accumulation. Then once and this is the key point, and we're going to follow this logic going forwards here. Once we break the high of that last the last high on the last momentum, the last high of this momentum right here on the network momentum with correlation to price action, when we actually break that right on over here, we go back and we go into a bullish momentum market, right? We're not talking about putting in lows because that was right here, but we're talking about actually moving to the upside. That happens right here as we break the past prior high, and then boom, higher highs, higher lows, good, and then we actually start setting in lower highs and lower lows, and at which point we actually break below that same horizontal coming from our first major area right here. That's when the high for this next market cycle is put in. Then we create lower highs, lower lows, downtrend for the next, year or so, and until we start gaining momentum once again. You'll notice right here, there's two very big things. First and foremost, obviously we get higher highs and higher lows. Okay, there you go. You got an uptrend. But more importantly, we actually break that same trend line coming in from our first phase right here. And both those things concurrently happening actually call accurately the low, and then later on the bullish momentum being gained as we break it to the upside right here. As you can see right here. Then, just straight up for the next few years really, and we create another support trend line right here for this next market cycle. We break that support trend line basically a little bit after the highs put in, and Bitcoin downtrends for a while. And now we're doing and this is the very important part. Now, as we kind of set in our first low right here and set in our first perhaps higher low right here, we now have something to go off of, right? Because remember, we want to see two things happen. We want to see higher highs and higher lows. We don't have that just yet. We have a low. We might have a high. Do we have a higher high right here? Actually, we don't. Do we have a higher low right here? Maybe. But what we really don't want to see is this brown oscillator break below this horizontal right here coming in from this first and second phase actually. If we break below that region, bad, really fucking bad. In fact, you'll notice this first kind of splurt high right here, coming off the downtrend. This actually does provide the impetus for that secondary higher low coming off of the actual low itself right here. Do we see the same sort of signature happening right now in 2019 perhaps? Actually, yes, we do. But it literally needs to happen right here, because it would be correlated with this area right here, this exact area right here, beginning of 2018, and we're pretty much resting on it right now. Bitcoin, we really do not want to see go below that region. Otherwise, that will imply that this is actually perhaps maybe a trap to the maybe like a legitimate trap to the upside. If we see this start to hook around on the next tick, which should be happening relatively soon, but if we see this start to form form a nice support base, which we thought was actually happening last week, but you can see it swiftly turned back down. But if we do see it kind of hook around and flatten out and then turn to the upside, get a positive slope, that'll be a damn good sign that this is actually going to work as a higher low. If we get back above this hump right here, confirmed, and then, all we have left to do is get back above this region right here, and then we can actually talk about real legitimate momentum being gained, which would actually imply that this whole run that we've seen so far is, and I don't mean to incite the moon boys right now, but it would actually imply that what we've seen thus far is, it would imply that what we've seen thus, I'm having trouble saying it. It would imply that what we've seen thus far on this rally for the past 6 months is not anything compared to what we're about to see. Again, I really want to back away from being, Mr. Moonboy myself, but I suppose it is worth mentioning. Anyways, let's see. What else do we have to talk about? Let's get back on over and check out GBDC really quick. Where are you at, GBDC, you piece of garbage? There you are. 1249 closed literally right at the area that makes it very fucking difficult. But same thing here as we see on CMEs. Really, we do have that same sort of descending triangle going on right now. Would imply a bearish resolution to this, but still holding up above this horizontal right here at 12 and a quarter. If we could actually close a 4-hour dodo below 12 and a quarter, then yes, measure move on this would point us directly towards this last gap, basically aligning with spot around 8,500. So again, still plenty of things pointed towards there. But let's talk a little bit more about, we talked about, a lot about downside, but remember, I want to be extremely clear with this. I'm not bearish on Bitcoin looking for a prolonged downtrend until first and foremost, we actually have to break the 21 exponential moving average on a closing basis. That would be a good start. So we got a lot of work to do for that to begin with. That's going to be coming in right around about 8,300 on this next tick, most likely. The next most important thing would be to break the 3-day 200 simple moving average. And this is where I want to talk a little bit more about this. So if we put on, and everyone's talking about this right now, so I'm not really saying anything crazy here, but let's put on this guy right here. We'll put him on green, get rid of everything else. We're going to talk about the good old golden cross on the simple moving averages, which I don't really care for all that much, but we're basically looking at the greens 50 simple and the white 200 simple right here. You will notice in the past there has been okay correlations. We did get the cross right here to the downside a little bit after the initial break, but does get a lot of momentum, to be fair. It's actually pretty good. And then the time before that, we got the golden cross running over here, and this is actually a pretty good cross you do see with price actually being pulled into the cross. So I would say that as we see these two guys approach each other, is it expected that Bitcoin falls into this? It's not that it's expected to fall into this, but it actually does imply that this cross is going to be legitimate if Bitcoin does get pulled into this cross anywhere around. It doesn't need to be exactly on it, which would be about 7,500, which could be a potential lower target, but it needs to be somewhere around it to give us insight into whether the Boston algos are actually going to play this. So if they support this, if you actually do see it pulled into it and then spit back out, buoyed back up, that's your insightful, that is your signal, that is your personal signal that this is actually going to be supported and we have a significant amount of upside to go. I mean, the last few examples that we had, obviously right here, starting off this 2-year rally, and then right here, this 3-year rally right here. Pretty fucking impressive stuff, but would technically imply that we do have a little bit of downside here. Wouldn't surprise me if we came into the 8,500-ish region and picked it up there. Again, the biggest counterpoint to that is just everyone's fucking looking at that. Everyone and their mother's looking at that right now. But I did think it's worthwhile to kind of discuss. Anyways, we'll take this guy back off and put on these guys right here. I really don't care all that much about simple moving average crosses. What I care about is exponentials, which we already saw the golden cross in the exponentials right here, which got this. Basically got a 2x from about 7,500 to almost 14,000. Pretty damn close to a 2x. By the way, I forgot to talk about this. I'm actually in a trade right now. I'm actually in a trade right now on my Bybit shitcoin account, which I'll get out of in just a second. I think it's gonna end up being a few $100 trade. Oh, there we go. A little bit of a Barty Bart action up. I think I'm long from 94.81. We're up about $40, so this is about a $200 trade. Let's do 525, and we'll sell them right there and just get out of this. Don't really want to hold this one for too long. Just want to get in and out. But should be fun on that. All right, cool. Anyways, let's actually make sure that we get filled. Oh, there we go. Filled or getting filled right now. Come on, baby. Buy him up. There you go, you little shit fuck. Sorry. If you want the true, what's it called? Secrets of the market maker, you just have to sweet talk the price action. That's exactly what you want. So it looks like I got out about half of them right there, and Bybit jumping $5 at a time. It's insanity, man. Anyways, okay, I do feel that we get this little bit of a BART action right now. Anyways, so what is that, like 20, I don't know, like $250 trade in the span of however long this video is taking thus far. Nothing impressive, but it, is good to show some live scalps, I suppose. Completely forgot to even talk about it at the beginning of this video. Jesus Christ, man. Speaking of things that I forgot to talk about, let's go talk about Bitcoin expected moves with regards to historical volatility. Would imply some downside pressure here. Would imply some downside pressure. We do see the low of the first standard deviation coming in right around 9150, man. 9150 is nasty. That is where the green 50 is on the daily. That is what does change the medium time frame perspective for like an actual trending move. Probably another 500, maybe even $1,000 lower. Sorry, more than 500. Probably like 800 to $1,000 lower. By the same token, to the upside, we see 9,800. I mean, the first deviation is coming in right around 90. This is pressure to the downside right now. It doesn't look too strong right here, to be fair. 9,800, a little bit higher than even my lower time frame high, which the range probably still around about 9,700, anywhere around here. Yeah, about 97. So Bitcoin kind of still struggling within this region. Anyways, okay, so we spoke about that. Let's go talk about some more of the top shitcoins right now. Let's actually look at the Bitcoin dominance chart first, BTC.D right here. And what do we have here? We do see Bitcoin dominance chart actually ticking up right now, but that's very low time frame. I do think that we bounce here a little bit. So alt's probably going to get hurt for a few days here. I'd imagine that Bitcoin dominance probably pops back up to 68%. I don't think that the downside is over just yet. I do think that alts get even more of a reprieve probably in the next coming weeks, but in the very short term, probably going to get hurt a little bit. I do think that this ticks back up to about 68%, maybe 68.5%, somewhere in this region right here. And then we probably draw this out a little bit more. But remember, this is the culmination of like literally about a year's worth of price action. We did a nice little flag right here, hit the measure move on that, then did a nice little ascending triangle right here, hit the measure move on that as well. Also hitting the weekly 200 exponential moving average. So all these things I do think push this back a little bit more. So while I do think that lower time frames rally up here and probably do have, and probably do allow the, probably do hurt the altcoins a little bit here. I do think that more medium term over the next few weeks, we probably do come actually further down towards about 65.5 to 66. After that, I'd actually be massively bullish on this, most likely. I think that it probably does bottom out around there, which would imply that later on, we actually really get to hurt the alts. But for right now, not we. I mean, I'm sure that statement's probably pissing off a lot of people. But your alt might get hurt. It might get violated by these mean bears, or mean Bitcoins, really. I mean, it's really the Bitcoin bulls hurting your alts. Those Bitcoin bullies, baby. But yeah, do think that it ticks up here probably for the next, I don't know, few days, and then maybe over the next couple of weeks comes back down. So alts will likely rally up even more so. I think that I would still kind of stick with what I said before, that we did see a lot of local lows get put in. I like to look at my my altcoin index essentially on Cardano, and yeah, we hit that first target area to about 640ish region. I was basically saying the daily 21 on most altcoins going to get hit, and I think that's pretty much for the most part happened. I do think that we get a little bit of a pullback here, back down to maybe like 590, maybe like 580, somewhere in this region right here, and then probably bounce off there. I don't think that the Bitcoin dominance chart is going to go parabolic from here. I think it's still corrective a little bit. It's just we're going to have a little bit of an upwards move right now. Anyways, let's go check out, we checked out that. Let's go check out gold, actually. I think, well, it doesn't really trade over the weekend, so not too much to talk about here. Still same bullshit here, really. As long as it's above the 21, okay to be long. I wouldn't be like riding about at home though, but okay. We can check out Link really quick. Link still holding its major support as well, kind of wedging itself into the ascending triangle. So if it does break to the downside, it will have an implied move actually much lower. I'm curious if it matches up with my next area right here. Yeah, it does. It does. Maybe raise this up a little bit and raise this into a zone. So if we do break below about 23,000 satoshis, close a higher level below there, then I'd be looking at an implied move towards 19,000 satoshis. But I actually do think that it holds this area right here and probably does bust up the top side of this anywhere above 24,000 satoshis. And I'll actually be looking for a move up here towards 29,000 satoshis, which I think is more likely. This is very corrective in nature, in my opinion. I mean, it's not in my opinion. This is fucking corrective in nature. I don't think it's constructive right now. I don't think that we're like literally gonna fucking switch up the trend here. If it did come down here, I'd be looking for a massive bounce overall. I think Link's still one of the stronger charts when it comes to altcoins. But as most altcoins know, strength right now kind of hard to come by. Let's go check out BNB really quick. $27.50. Ugh, nasty. BNB kind of losing it a little bit. Actually pretty nasty right there. You really didn't want to see that. Litecoin's still holding up above its major areas, but BNB starting to look like a rejection, which BNB has kind of been leading a little bit. That's the only reason why I'm really talking about it. Going on to Mrs. Litecoin, who I think leads a little bit more. I think this is also a more well-defined chart. If we actually do break below this purple 200 exponential moving average at $88, I would be looking for another move back down here towards like $78.50 to $80ish, anywhere around the daily 200 simple essentially. And we probably have a measured move on this to be made as well. This is kind of like a sloppy descending triangle as it stands. I don't know how much weight I really put on it, but yeah, I would be pointing directly down here. I just think it's a little bit easier to look at just the naked moving averages. And if we see the purple 200 exponential moving average break to the downside, I'd be looking for this move to get hit and probably do bounce off $78. But man, that would likely put Bitcoin down into the low 9,000s, upper 8,000s, I'd imagine. Looking at weekly, weekly also going to be closing later tonight, and the weekly is going to have a chance to do something quite nasty here. If we do close the weekly below the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which we're well below right now, it's at $94 essentially, then I would probably be looking for this overall to come down to that next level. It's probably going to imply that sometime next week we actually do break the 200 exponential moving average on the daily and probably come down at the very least to about $78.50. However, if we actually do close today's weekly dildo above $94 right here, then I'd be looking for this to likely float back up to about 115, maybe even 120 over the next month or two. But for right now, lower time frames looking very similar to Bitcoin. We do see the same sort of support floor being put in. We do see the same sort of rolling hills of price action right here, which I really don't like. But with regards to our lower time frame oscillators, 4-hour Stokes up, 3-hour Stokes up, 2-hour Stokes up, hourly Stokes down. But the second that we actually see hourly Stokes switch back up, I do think that we got a BART here and probably head back towards 91 and a quarter region. But remember, that doesn't change the higher time frames. Higher time frames need to get above $94, and guess where our next major resistance is from this structure is coming in around exactly $94 right here. So Litecoin's gonna have to fight through some shit. Although I do think Litecoin's an easier chart right now, so I would be putting a lot of weight on it just because if it breaks either one of those areas, whether it's to the downside or the upside, that's gonna provide massive clarity to the current price action for the next like medium term couple week outlook, I'd imagine. Anyways, Mr. Buterol, less impressive. Certainly one of the weaker of the top three, or the weaks of the top three right now. Support floor right around 197.5. Really don't want to see the area break. If that area breaks, we're going to talk about moves down to 169 most likely. It's going to be nasty. By the same token, I don't think that Mr. Buterol moves on his own, but whatever Bitcoin and Litecoin do, he's likely to mirror and more emotionally mirror as well. But this one, significantly worse posturing overall. We have not only lost the purple 200 exponential moving average, but we are getting rejected by it very, very obviously. Not only that, but we've actually broken below this horizontal right here and currently using it as resistance on that last little rally attempt. It's not looking too hot for Mr. Buterol, and that is a bad sign overall, because ideally you want to see your alts moving with your majors, and we're not even seeing the majors move with each other. So the majors typically like the top five, right? So Bitcoin, Litecoin, Mr. Buterol, Ripples, Nipples, and I don't know, just pick whatever odd one that just keeps on popping in and out of there. We only see really Bitcoin and Litecoin kind of providing some semblance of life, but even then it still looks weak, and the other one's very much weak. So if we go over and check out Mr. Ripple's Nipples, still actually holding 31 cents, so actually not terrible. It's the same trend line that we've been holding for the past year, which is good, but we've tapped it a lot of times, so I don't know how much more I trust it really. And the problem is that if we actually do formally break this trend line at 30 cents, it's not gonna be a drop, it's gonna be a fucking flood. When people talk about $589 for Ripples or fucking $10,000 per Ripple per drop or whatever the fuck these people are saying, there might be a parallel universe where that happens. However, the currency that it's based against is going to be so fucking devalued that you'd literally rather just put it up your bunghole and use it as tissue paper afterwards than try to buy something like that, because this will be a fucking nasty move if it does happen. But again, needs to close the daily doodle below 30 cents. If that happens, first target 17 cents, 13 cents, and 8 cents, maybe even lower than that over time. Looks fucking terrible, really fucking terrible if we break this. But for now, still holding up above it, just like the people over here who thought it was going to break to the downside. Gives a nice little rally. You probably don't want to front run this decision, especially right on over here. And again, another very easily well-defined area to kind of operate off of. To the upside, we got 32 cents. If that gets broken to the upside, I'd be looking for a move actually towards 34.5 cents, and probably even much higher than that over time, at like 38 cents. By the same token, if this area breaks to the downside, 30 cents. Ooh, man! Mr. Brad Garlickhouse is going to be coming around to all the doors saying, knock, knock, hello, please give me all your ripples. Sorry, you owe $2. Go fuck yourself. Basically. So yeah, I'd keep an eye on that. It does look quite nasty here. But not quite there just yet. And how many times have we seen this same sort of action happening? Many. So I wouldn't get too excited about an actual breakdown just yet. Traditional markets, I'm bullish as fuck on. We've been bullish on them for a long time, and I'd still be bullish on them. Again, this is why I have that rule that as long as you have the golden cross and as long as you're above the 21, and especially as long as you're above all major moving averages, they all diverge away from each other. Not bearish anything that looks like that. And this one actually just having a little bit of a cup and handle right here. Again, the next blast off, I do think that we have an implied move somewhere right around 303.5, so a little bit higher. Anyways, back on Mr. Bitcoin. Let's start to wrap this bitch up. Lower time frames, very much well defined. We do have this blue box territory right here at 9,400 to 93.50. Any break below there, and I'd be targeting moves back down to our prior lows of about 9,100, and then probably beyond. That would really start to shape up the lower time frames and really start to make this look nasty. But I actually do think that Bitcoin gives another rally attempt, probably towards 9,600. I mean, we kind of just had one right there, 95.30. I'm not too beholden to this belief, but I do think that it gives another try to the upside first. Areas of interest for the upside going to be 9,600. Doesn't change anything if that actually breaks though. If that breaks, then I'd be looking at a move towards 97.50-ish region. That area can change the lower time frame trajectory as it really open up the gates for another test back up to probably around the daily 21, which wherever that is going to be coming in right around 12.3 right now, or sorry, not 12.3 but 10.3 right now. But keep in mind, as of there are plenty of things pointing lower right now, so the overall picture is not so rosy like Miss O'Donnell over there. And in fact, we looked at this. I mean, it does kind of look like a ticking time bomb. But yeah, I think I kind of hold on to that. So again, very low time frames probably carry out this bounce a little bit more. I know that we already kind of hit the target from yesterday. I think it gives another try here, just with the way that all of these momentum oscillators kind of situated. After that, though, we should have clarity on the situation. If it turns into a rejection, we're probably going to see carry on over into the weekly. If the week closes below the 10 simple, I would ultimately be looking for price action to come sub 9,000 over the following weeks, if not sooner. By the same token, if we end above the red 10 simple on the weekly, well, hey, it might get salvaged for another for a little bit longer. At least for now, probably, maybe even play a move back up towards 10.5, 10, 11,000-ish area right on over here. Again, it's going to take its time, and of course, sideways action is really the name of the game, and this is why I love playing options. Again, if you're getting frustrated by these moves, this is the time to get into options. This is the time to learn options. So check that out so you can actually benefit from sideways action rather than, well, having to rely on these fucking super Barty annoying moves, which, hey, it can be done, but you can also make life easy for yourself. Anyways, I'm going to leave you off with that one. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more video and live stream analysis. Looking forward to seeing you there. If not, as always, do want to be wishing you well on this nice little relaxing Sunday morning. I'm going to go binge eat a shit ton of food. Take care and see you soon.